And welcome back to the I'm Him Sports Podcast. My name is Matthew King, and alongside me is Jake Morris once again. And we have a very special guest with us. We have Jack Settleman, who is the owner of Snapback Sports, and he also went to every Thursday night football game this season. And he is the co-host of the YouTube podcast, Punchline Podcast, with Marlon Humphrey. And Jack, thank you for joining us. The first thing that I want to talk about was, how has the experience been with Marlon Humphrey and creating the Punchline podcast?
Yeah, I'm a little concerned. It looks like there's some shit over Jake's head, but besides that, I'm excited to be here for AFC Championship week. Do you know what a conference championships like, Jake? You get ABC, NBC, all that.
Got those, but not in my lifetime.
Okay, yeah, CBS, Fox. All right, well, check it out later on Sunday. But yeah, I met Marlon at Summer League a couple of years ago. Got connected through a friend. And we just became kind of friendly via that, following each other on social media. As you guys know, he's super active on social. I run a company that is, built via social media. So we just kind of engaged. And then when Athlete Podcast, McAfee, Kelsey's, all this came together, I was like, all right, who's the list that would make a lot of sense for this? And Marlon was at the top of that list. So reached out to Marlon, put together a deal, and we locked it in. We've got him signed up for a couple of years to do the show, which I'm really excited about. And then process-wise, we went up to Canada to discuss with him. He was over there this summer. We kind of sat down, did a brainstorm. What do we want the show to be about? The logo, all that good stuff. Knocked that out in a day, actually. And a long day, but a day nonetheless. Then we started to get building the studio in his place in Baltimore. And then every Monday, me and my brother, who runs our content, would train down to Baltimore. I live in New York. We both live in New York, because I felt the importance of an in-person podcast was just like so big. And I see you guys doing it in person. It just makes a huge difference. Camaraderie, chemistry, even just the visual of it, I think looks much better. So we go down every Monday. We film Mondays, they're off days. Now the schedule's a little messed up with the playoffs, but Mondays are off days. So film around noon after Marlon gets a workout in at the facility. And then we're back on the train by 3, 4 o'clock. Footage into the Dropbox. Editor edits the whole thing all day Tuesday. We review it all day Tuesday. And then Wednesday we're live with a thumbnail, a title, upload to podcast, and then Wednesday, Thursday we're cutting social clips essentially to grow it, and then we're doing press around it any way we can, getting in front of people who might be willing to share it. And so that's pretty much been the process, week in and week out.
That's great. It's been an awesome experience being able to watch Marlon and see him vulnerable. So it's been a great experience for us. What's been your favorite moment from the podcast? Because you've had so many great moments and great guests. I would like to know, what's been your individual favorite moment of the entire podcast thus far?
Yeah, favorite moment is still to come, because Lamar has been semi-committed if we win the Super Bowl. So I say it's a if or possibly a when moment to come. But for now, the coolest part for me has been the Odell episode. Obviously, just Odell Beckham, the name, the catch, everything that Odell Beckham is. But it's really the fact that I felt like in a show where you guys know our vibe, where Marlon and I we're out there having fun. And I think as much as we give introspection, we're not breaking down film. It's lighthearted. It's kind-spirited. And even in that format, we made Odell comfortable enough to share a lot of really, whether it was deep stories or just troubles from his past, different things like that. And you can see the comment section walk away from that episode being like, wow, I didn't realize this is the person that Odell Beckham is today. And it's really funny because, our process, I forgot to mention, we post a full length hour and a half or so episode, and then we clip, the 4 or 5 best moments and post those as separate 6-minute cutouts. And so in the Odell cutout, so the boat story, the plane story, the catch story, some of the moments that we highlighted, the comment section is actually fairly different, right? It's people who didn't get to see the whole episode to understand a ton of the context. And it's really just like Giants fans talking about the boat, being like, yeah, ego this, ego that. So I think like that part is a bummer because, when you go and watch the full thing, you actually get a full understanding of like who Odell has become as a person and his regrets and his trials and tribulations and all those things. So definitely giving Odell a platform to kind of share who he's become and explain honestly some of his past has been definitely the coolest part.
Yeah, no, that's really cool. Obviously, you've got it figured out. You guys are killing it. And I know you mentioned the shit above my head. I get it. We suck, but I'm a huge supporter of the Baltimore Ravens. This past game, I was just out at Fed Hill screaming my head off for the Ravens. So, but I've heard this term circulated a lot. This phrase, rather. Matt's told me about it. I heard a lot at Fed Hill. How are you staying locked in for this AFC Championship game?
So I think I'm taking a big diet approach to the week. So I'm eating clean, eating healthy as if I'm playing in the game on Sunday. So, no bad carbs, no fried food, no, like that's, obviously I'm hitting my workouts, I'm hitting my journal, I'm getting good rest, I'm, doing my skincare routine, all that good stuff. And I've got the fiance locked in. She's wearing, the Ravens hat to work. It's cold here in New York. So like there, but I'm putting a lot of attention towards the diet this week as if they're going to need me for the 3 hours on Sunday as much as they'll need the players.
Yeah, it sounds like you're really locked in, and you can go out there and play a few snaps for them if they need you to.
Oh, I was walking to work this morning and I was like, "Give me a fucking helmet." I'll right now. And then I was like, I'm gonna be concussed for the game, not even remembered. So I was like, all right, calm down, settle down, deep breathing. You're not playing the game, but yeah, for the next 6 days, I'm on the team mentally.
Hey, I mean, if you make a play or two, that might be worth it, to be honest. So I guess moving on, like, what is your plan for drinking on Sunday? I know it's completely different than what we just asked you, but you got to have some sort of plan going into it.
So I've had, since Snapback started and since I've been of age, I would say there's only been 3 or 4 seminal moments, huge games where like drinking was a big part of the equation. 19 versus the Titans, I drank too much, and that spiraled into frustration and into a version of myself I'm not happy about. Those are also my vodka drinking days, which vodka got me, in a not great state of mind. Tequila kind of mellows me out. That's what my alc of choice these days. And then Bama, Texas earlier this year, which with the heat and by the way of the game, I just was like fairly sober by the second half. Honestly, by kickoff. And then the Patriots game at night, the Chiefs game at night, like I had some drinks for that. But it's funny, like growing up, we weren't big tailgaters and we didn't hit the bars before. Like we would go to the tailgate, but I never really drank for it. And then Texas, Washington, the semifinal in NOLA, like all day on bourbon. So, what choice do you have then to participate?
Right.
And I definitely was drinking all day to where I think I was actually, I was kind of in and out probably for the first half. Like I remember the key plays and stuff like that. And then by the second half, it wasn't really a great buzz. I was more so just hungover. So it really is like an art within itself. So my plan for Sunday, I think, is still a TBD. We'll be at the tailgate, as soon as the lots open at 11. So I could definitely get to a place where I don't remember, I could not drink. I haven't made my decision yet, but I think there is a part of me that I have realized, like if you drink a little and just take the edge off, it does help because it is so nerve-wracking being in the stadium that it does literally calm you down. But then you don't want to go too far and you don't want to go, then if you go too light, it's like nothing really happens. So yeah, it's tough to find that perfect. And then it just depends on how the game goes, right? Like a great buzz can turn into the night of your life, or a great buzz can turn into the worst, evening of your life, even if it is a great buzz. So yeah, we'll see how it plays out on Sunday.
Yeah, for sure. I'm not sure what I'm going to do yet because I'm going to be so nervous that I need to have a couple drinks, but I don't want to get to a point where I get blackout drunk and then they lose and I go into a state of depression after the game. But if they win, obviously it will create a great environment. But I
I
did.
also, I also have this angle of like, I'm going to win or lose. Like, I'm expected to kind of respond and
Right.
react on socials. And I mean, you mix alcohol with that. You don't want to say the wrong thing, emotionally charged up. So there is something to keep in mind there as well.
Yeah, for sure. I'm probably gonna delete X or Twitter, just because I don't want to say anything that I don't want to. But I did want to move into how you became a Ravens fan. Obviously, like for me, like everybody has great stories about becoming a fan of a certain team. For me personally, it was my dad and all the stories of going to the games with him and him bringing his fandom to me. Like, what was it for you? What was your experience and how you became a Ravens fan? Especially, being from Owings Mills, but how did you actually become and fall in love with the Ravens?
Yeah. So born in 96, team starts in 96. I grew up in a family business, and our family business sold beer to the Ravens and the Orioles. And so every game I would go to growing up, I mean, I was going as a Ravens fan. So like, I'll never forget like Hebrew school on Sundays being pulled out early to go to the game was like the best thing ever. All the way to like, when I finally got to probably 16, 17 years old, where I finally recognized like, my mom, who was running the business, if the Ravens won, it was the difference between a good year and a bad year, right? Like an extra playoff game. Ironically, and we joke that it was her sacrifice, but like the family business sold earlier this year. The Baltimore Ravens, as we all know, have never hosted an AFC championship in the history. And so like they've never had the two home games back to back at M&T, at the stakes to sell all that beer. On top of that, I mentioned that they sold to the Orioles. Until I was 18, the Orioles didn't have a winning record. Then we win a couple playoff series, but then back to the ground, whatever. And they didn't have the Orioles this year, that business either. So maybe sold potentially like 12 months too early, but nonetheless, that's kind of, just growing up in Baltimore, Ravens were everything, Purple Fridays. I, through the business, like I always tell my fun fact is like, I used to go to Ray Lewis's birthday party growing up. So he would have a he would have a bowling birthday party. So imagine 30 lanes, they round the whole thing. Lane one's Ray, lane two is Ed, lane three is Suggs, right? Like, and then you would pair that with like his friends or sponsors or whatever. And so like we were always lane 28. So we would get like the punter or the four string corner or the backup right tackle. But like, when we were young, we would get pictures with him. He had a vitamin water deal. So like you get free vitamin water. I got, Tracy McGrady would be there. Like it was so cool. So the Ravens were literally everything growing up. And, I've put it out there before, but like what this Super Bowl would mean to me because of just that whole history and then this pinnacle moment of where I've combined like literally growing up in Baltimore, being a Ravens fan my whole life, to now pairing the business and then having my friends and family being in the center of all of that. I mean, this is the time. So I'm just so excited for what's going on. But that's the history of my Ravens fandom.
Yeah, no, that's actually insane. I mean, how could you not be a Ravens fan with all those connections? But I want to move into the game. What are your first initial thoughts on the Ravens versus Chiefs?
Yeah, I think it's simple. Like the Ravens are the better football team on both sides of the ball right now, currently. And the Chiefs have Patrick Mahomes and they have Andy Reid and they have Travis Kelce and they've got playoff experience and they've got almost a young, naive defense, which is the best thing you could have. It's like the Packers offense, right? Like they're young and naive. They fly around. They got speed and they just don't know, anything else. But what I think is unique is that they've also got one of the most experienced and best defensive coordinators in the NFL. On top of that, they actually have some experience because they went and won the Super Bowl last year, right? So that's the difference. And Josh Allen outplays Patrick Mahomes yesterday, but they can't find a way because they don't find a way, and Patrick Mahomes always finds a way, which is funny because in 21, when the Ravens beat the Chiefs, like I was in the stadium, the Ravens weren't winning that game. Like once Pat got the ball, it was over. And as they moved down the field, like we got lucky. Like Owe punched it out. We got lucky. I wouldn't put the ball in Mikol's hands again. I wouldn't put the ball in CEH's hands again, right? So they know who to trust going forward. But yeah, I think the Ravens are great. I think when we look back at this run that I hopefully think we're going to go on, people will be like, "Whoa, I didn't realize the Ravens had the best defense in the NFL and averaging 30 points per game at home." Right? So the matchup is simple. Like Ravens are the better team. Play like you played all year, and I really do think Lamar got a monkey off his back because that first half he was timid. I know Monk's play calling, trying to go deep against a blitz wasn't perfect for him, but he was not playing how Lamar Jackson played. I want Lamar Jackson to play. If Lamar Jackson plays on Sunday, it's over. We will win the football game. If he shells up, Brock Purdy got in a shell. Lamar in the first half got in that shell. If we go and play with that defense, I have supreme confidence in the team. So that's what I expect to happen on Sunday.
For sure. And with the Chiefs, they are technically having a down year, but what they've done with their defense and being able to, lean off of that defense and really change the way that they started to play football because they usually went off.
I want to push back on that though. Everyone down year for the Chiefs. I understand technically because they won less games and they're not the 1 seed hosting the AFC Championship. It's a down year, but like they have the second best defense in the NFL and they've had it all year. Like it just because it's not on the offensive side of the ball, it's not a down year for the Chiefs in my opinion. It's a down year for the offense. And the offense, it just put up 27 on the road against a unit that was playing fantastic, and the efficiency numbers were off the charts. I mean, they ran like 39 plays. They had 1 third down. Like it was absurd. So I would say it's a down year relative to are his receivers catching the ball like Tyreek Hill used to? No. Is Travis Kelce as dominant? But dude had 2 touchdowns yesterday and 100 yards, right? So down year, it gets me a little hot by people acting as if this isn't like an incredible Chiefs team with an amazing defense.
Right. Yeah, for sure. And I totally get that point. The Chiefs just down year for me means that their offense is having a down year. It's not their defense. They're starting to, like I was saying, they're starting to really lean off of that defense and really start to change the way that they play because of their defense, and especially towards the end of the year, because earlier in the year, what they were doing is they were essentially trying to be the old Chiefs, and then they became the new Chiefs, leaning off their defense and not taking as many deep shots with people, being able to adjust to that. So that's really what I mean by down year. But I totally get that point. But speaking of the defense, the Ravens defense going up against Patrick Mahomes, you've had a lot of defensive guests on the Punchline Pod. You've had Patrick Queen, obviously OBJ, but Kyle Van Noy, Roquan Smith, Kyle Hamilton. With talking to them, what makes this team special in your opinion? Like, what makes it feel different this season? Like, what is the common theme with all of these defensive guys and just the vibe around the locker room?
Yeah, come on Punchline Pod, have a career year defensively. I think it's our marketing for season 2. What's the through line, I guess is the question. I mean, there's so many elements that makes the Ravens defense great, but I would say like Roquan's leadership combined with Mike Macdonald's system, which is essentially do your job. Like the talent we have across the park, do your job. And I was watching the Chiefs Ravens highlights back from 21. I mean, the team is just in a completely different. Like Chris Ward's on the field, Malik Harrison's the starting linebacker. And PQ, like people. What PQ's done this season, he's been fantastic, and everyone likes to attach it to Roquan Smith. It's not necessarily that it's attached to Roquan Smith; it's attached to every single piece. It's knowing and trusting that if I do my job, which is sit in this quarters man zone and stay disciplined, then I'm good. And I think years in the past, like the reason PQ was often out of position was because he probably felt like he had to overcompensate. He had to fly to the ball, but he knows that Michael Pierce is going to drive his guy this way, which puts you in the B gap, and Rowe's going to fill that hole. And then PQ, here's my role. Instead of chasing after the ball carrier and playing with instincts, it's like you almost eliminate all the instincts. And that's why when Marlin or any of these guys have talked about like the Ed Reeds of the world or the Earl Thomases even, like Marcus Williams, who's one of the rangiest players, he's had a down year. I mean, the injuries haven't helped. He's had a down year by like his standards, but I don't think people understand like he's playing his role so perfectly that you're not seeing him. Like everyone who bitches about Marcus Williams, it's because he's not tackling him run support in week 6 against Derrick Henry, right? But we're trying to win a Super Bowl, and you haven't seen anyone over Marcus Williams' head this year, have you, right? Like week 2 versus the Dolphins last year, that was the whole thing. It wasn't that the Dolphins were beating us up. It's that it was coverage bust. And then you come all the way full circle this year against Miami. Okay, they hit some quick hitters. They're hitting mid-range. They're in rhythm, all this stuff. Marlin goes down, so now corner 1 is out. And all they did was they said, okay, here's the system. Here's how they're beating the system. Let's tweak the system. And then it was just domination for the next 3 quarters from the Ravens defense. And that's what it is. Everyone plays their role, knows the role. And then you combine that with the amount of talent that's on the field and the trust they have between each other. That's where it's just been so special. So, yeah, I would say that's the biggest thing this year that's made the Ravens defense spectacular.
Okay, so we talked a lot about the defense, but I want to change the subject back to Lamar Jackson. So obviously it feels like there's some weight that was lifted off his shoulders after getting that playoff win, even though the shaky first half, whatever. Do you feel like Lamar needs to win a Super Bowl to change the narrative around him?
It doesn't matter what anyone does. There's a narrative around Tom Brady. Like, there's a narrative that Tom Brady had the best coach of all time. There's a narrative that Tom Brady was carried by his defenses because Barry McCockner tweets, how historically good Tom's defense, right? There's a narrative around LeBron James, not winning championships. There's do I need to continue? So the narrative around Lamar will always continue. It's just going to flex based off of what happens, right? If Lamar wins the Super Bowl, though, I think the narrative becomes more entertaining, right? It turns from, can Lamar get it done in the playoffs? Can this style quarterback win in the NFL? To, okay, he just beat Pat. He won a Super Bowl. He's got 2 MVPs at 27. He's got a Super Bowl MVP at 27. Is he going to go down as the greatest quarterback of all time? I don't think so. But at least like the narrative that he's a Hall of Famer at 27, like that's a narrative I want to play with. Like, how good is Lamar Jackson? I want the narrative to be, all right, but now his cap hit is hitting, right? Like, they'll never be able to build a team around him like this again with these coordinators. How good is Lamar Jackson without those pieces, right? Does he look like Jalen Hurts did this year? Or does he look like he looked in Roman's system where he was good, but we knew there could be more? I want to, so the narrative will change, but it'll be a lot more fun to have the conversation around Lamar because it'll be in a better way. People will always tear him down like they tear down every single athlete ever. But I think that the narrative will definitely move and the conversation will change.
Right. It was the same thing with Patrick Mahomes, right? So they, with the down year and everything, but they were talking about when Tyreek Hill was traded, like, is Patrick Mahomes going to be the same player? Is he going to be just as good? And obviously he's just as good. So really it's about everybody. So it really doesn't make a difference. You can just tell, like, how good is the player with the weapons and how good are they without. Like, they're still great, but you need to be a team to be able to win in the NFL. But moving on, and then I have one more question and then I'll let you go. So Patrick Queen, you tweeted out that Patrick Queen is going to be your X factor in this game. I want you to tell me why you think that and why you believe in Patrick Queen this week to get it done.
Yeah, I was pretty surprised. I tweeted that late last night being like, I already have my X factor for Sunday's game. And like, everyone guessed every player. I mean, people obviously assumed Marlon, but then they assumed Andrews being back. There were some cheeky guesses of like Justice Hill and Ronnie Stanley, players like that. But I felt like it was obvious, to me at least, like what Patrick Mahomes does and what the Chiefs offense does. It runs through Mahomes extending plays. It runs through Pacheco now. and it runs through, Devin Singletary or Dalton Schultz, who had a lot of success against PQ last game. So what do you think is going to happen with Travis Kelce, who just scored 2 touchdowns? Can PQ, he's not going to win every rep versus Travis Kelce. He's the best tight end of all time, paired with the best quarterback in the world. So I'm not saying that, but what I am saying is, can he win a few reps? And when they go to him on third down, and can PQ stay disciplined? And can he allow, his this trust in this defensive system versus his instincts? Patrick Queen is a phenomenal player, but he's instinctual, right? And so when Pat Mahomes escapes the pocket and it looks like he's going to run for 12 yards, but then his guy leaks out behind him for 30 yards, those are the differences, right? Where he's got to, Pat did it last night, and Josh Allen did it too. But Mahomes, he'll run to the line and then he'll dump it off, and someone will run for 20 yards, and that's the difference in the game. So I would say, if you told me how many sacks, interceptions, tackles for loss, pass deflections like Patrick Queen had today, I would feel really good about telling you how the Ravens fared on Sunday. So I'm excited for PQ. The funny thing is, I'm not even saying he's going to play well. I'm just saying he's the X factor in the game. It doesn't mean it'll be if he doesn't play well, the game's over. If he plays well, the game is, a win for the Ravens. But he's going to be playing a pivotal role on Sunday. I'm excited for him. He's deserved this opportunity more than anything. He got drafted. He got, he's that first round guy. He went from Ray to Mosley to Queen, and Queen just wasn't doing it, right? And he could have sulked. He could have been excited about free agency. He put his fucking head down, and he played his ass off. So I'm excited for him. And, win or lose, he'll be on Twitter, which I'm excited for. He was tweeting about whoever in the Bucks game, and it would be cool to see him, kind of have that moment headed to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, for sure. I'm really excited for Patrick Queen in this matchup, and also I'm just really happy for him because the fan base, when he first started, they were all coming after him saying he's not good enough, and now this year he's turned into an All-Pro. He's a Pro Bowler. It's been an amazing year to see how he's progressed, but also I think part of it, a lot of people say it's Roquan, but in reality, I think Roquan has helped with his confidence. I don't think it's all about Roquan Smith, but I do think with a $100 million linebacker saying great things and saying how great Patrick Queen is, that just brings your confidence up. And I think that was a big thing for PQ because it was a lot on his shoulders. Before I let you go, I just need to know, what is your score prediction for Sunday? I'm curious what you think the score prediction is going to be, and also if the Ravens are going to cover.
So it's interesting because, Ravens Twitter has found all the stats over the last 6 games at home, averaging 30-plus points per game, and then only allowing, about 17, not even 30 points per game, 38 points per game at home. Just ungodly numbers. If you actually recall, it was my favorite stat back in the day, but Lamar Jackson teams scored 20-plus points in 19 of his first 20 starts. The Ravens scoring points with Lamar was never really a problem. And then they kind of went through a weird stretch last year and the end of Roman and, all that stuff. So to see it return to this, but then again, the Chiefs defense has allowed 25 or more points a singular time this season. They've only allowed someone to get to 24 2 times this season. On the flip side, the Ravens are in that exact same boat. So it wouldn't shock me if we had a lower scoring game. Ravens kind of run the ball, keep the ball out of Pat's hands. The Bills had a ton of success. You got to convert in the red zone, obviously, score touchdowns, not field goals. I haven't thought about my prediction yet, so this is kind of coming off the cuff. I think the Ravens win the game 20. I'll go 27-23. I don't think it's going to I don't think that the Chiefs cover, but I think it could come down to whether the Ravens have the ball last, they're driving, or the Ravens stop Mahomes, and finally someone stops Patrick Mahomes. But I think the Ravens are going to get the job done. So I'll see you boys on Sunday, or I'll see Matt, Jake. It's on CBS, Channel 2, so make sure you locate that. And I'll see you this weekend.
Once again, thank you for joining us, Jack. And also, I can check out the new office. I see the new office. Jake over here is a huge BDGE fan. So
We're in here now. Although the BDG guys, they didn't work on Mondays, apparently. They all left at like 2 o'clock. But it's okay. It's okay.
You're locked
You
in.
don't have to post
Sounds like some
that.
slackers if I was
I'm just saying, little work ethic on championship week. But I got to run. Appreciate you guys, and we'll talk on Sunday.
All right. See you Sunday, Jack.
Yeah.
So once again, go subscribe to the Punchline Podcast. I will link it below. But also, if you guys can, if you like the content, if you enjoy it, if you guys could just hit the subscribe button below, super easy. You can also hit that little bell and you'll get notified when we post and come out with content. We're going to have a bunch of Ravens content come out this week. I have a couple more, hopefully, guests that come on this week. We also have a regularly scheduled podcast that's going to come out. So just hit the subscribe button and hit the bell so you know when it all comes out. And thank you guys for listening to the I'm Him Sports Podcast. And we will see you guys probably, I guess, tomorrow. Jake, thank you. And we'll see you guys soon.
They know that I'm him, all of this time in the gym. Shots don't never touch the rim. They know that I'm him.